So before we begin this video, I have to tell you that we are using the initial release firmware, which is as shown on the screen here. That is the build number. And as far as I can tell you, this firmware isn't exactly the most stable, and Samsung is gonna release more software updates before customers are gonna get the phones on their hand. It's just that we reviewers are getting the earlier software that I don't think is considered finalized yet. So do keep that in mind, and we might do a follow-up video to all of these tests where we update the firmware and then redo all of these tests and do yet another video. So we might do that, so stay tuned. I will try to post all the updates in the community tab on our YouTube channel, so subscribe as well, yay! And I also want to highlight that benchmarks are totally different from gaming tests, because when you do synthetic benchmarks, you are putting a really unrealistic type of load on the phone, and when it comes to games, every game will function differently. Some games might use certain instruction sets, like War Thunder has ray tracing, but Genshin Impact will demand a lot of loading speed because it has a lot of things to load, and whenever you walk from place to place, it will just continuously load. There is no loading screen unless you use the teleport waypoint. And that is one of the reasons why I rarely use benchmarks. I really prefer gaming tests because people will buy their phones to do gaming and not run synthetic benchmarks like what I'm gonna show in this video here. You guys asked for it, so you guys are gonna get it. So here are the three phones. The Galaxy S24, the small one, is gonna go here. The Galaxy S24 Plus is gonna go here. Whoops, the camera framing is a bit off. Let me fix it. And the Galaxy S24 Ultra is gonna be here. Unfortunately, I don't have a third stand, so I need to find a way to prop up the phone. This seems okay, even though the Ultra is a bit dangerous. I think this is okay, right? So in this video, I'm just gonna run a bunch of benchmarks to show you the different scores that you can get from all of these three devices. So all of these three phones have just finished charging. All of them are at 100%, and all of them are also at 100 nits of brightness. So the display will not affect the power draw of the battery or anything like that. So we will just start off the test by doing the easiest of all, Geekbench. Let me find Geekbench. Yes, where's Geekbench? Whoops. So in this video, we're gonna run benchmarks back to back with some cooling in between when I actually explicitly say so, because some of these benchmarks are really taxing. So let's start with Geekbench CPU. Run. Remember, these two phones, the S24 and the S24 Plus, are using the Exynos 2400, whereby the S24 Ultra is using the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. And while this is running, I want to do a quick recap. These two phones, excellent performance from the Exynos chipset, but the Snapdragon is not that good in terms of the ray tracing performance, so that is something that you have to take note of. Even though the Exynos performs really good, there are some graphical driver issues, I would say. Like Fortnite, for example, it just couldn't render the lighting. But in terms of the sustained performance, when it did thermal throttle, the Exynos is a bit better, but there are some secrets that we have to review a bit later in this video. So we will just skip ahead until the completion of this benchmark. I'm not actually skipping, I'm fast forwarding until it is complete. So you guys know that I'm not cheating. Oh, Snapdragon completes first. Then the two Exynos. Single core is lower. That's interesting. Both single core and multi-core is better on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So for GPU, we have two GPU APIs to use, either Vulkan or OpenCL, but we'll try OpenCL first. We'll try both of them actually. This phone here, the Plus, is using a Quad HD as well, same resolution as the Ultra. So let's just do it right now. Oh, okay. These two are very, very close, but again, the Exynos 2400 is slightly better. This one is high is because I think the resolution affects it. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. That's interesting. So now let's move over to the Vulkan API. Supposedly, Vulkan API will work better on Exynos because they were optimizing for Vulkan for quite a long time already. So let's start. Okay, interesting. If there's anything wrong with my methodology, then do let me know down in the comment section below, because I do want to know what's happening, because the GPU governor is quite funny. The Exynos here is using governor weight, that means watt. Oh, it's watt, not weight. Then this one is using energy aware. This one is energy aware. If you don't know, the governor here means that how the GPU is supposed to clock up when the demand comes. So this one is energy aware, means that if energy is available, then you boost the GPU. Watt, I have no idea. I think the battery level is showing on camera. Take that however you want, but all these synthetic benchmarks, the workload on the phone and how it stresses the battery is just unrealistic. But you can sort of extrapolate your data in terms of the efficiency of the chipsets, especially these two, Exynos versus the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. The third benchmark that we're going to do is, of course, going to be one of the famous ones, AnTuTu. I just installed them. Okay, this is going to be interesting, so let's start. $1,766,906 on the S24 Ultra. Let me count the numbers. That is 1.766 million, right? Yeah, correct. These two phones are still ongoing. Oh, okay, I spoke too soon. So one thing that I always hate about AnTuTu is that you cannot just compare the overall score. You have to look at the individual score to know which part of the chipset is better on which and which is not that good, because it's just not a simple, straightforward single number for everything, because every chipset is different, so you have to compare each of these individual scores. So we are seeing now that the 8 Gen 3 is performing pretty much the best in terms of everything. I don't know why the UX is different, because they are supposed to be the same. All of them are using One UI 6.0, 6.1 actually. The temperature, yes, this is very important, because this is the first time that we are seeing it thermal throttling already, and we can see, whoops, the thermal headroom of all these three phones. And I think I was right in the gaming test video. I said that the absolute maximum temperature that these three phones can go is, for this one, 46-47 degrees Celsius on the chip itself, not on the skin temperature. For this one is around the same, 46. For this one though is the lowest at somewhere around 43. So we are seeing exactly that in this gaming test. And while we have prepared for a 3D Mark solar based stress test, I will have to let the phone cool down a bit, because it's not exactly cool right now for all these three phones. Also, do keep in mind that because I'm using this phone stand for the S24 and S24 Plus, the larger surface area on contact with this thing is a heat insulator, so it will trap some heat on the phone itself. And the Ultra will technically perform the best in terms of cooling, because it doesn't have anything touching behind the phone. So do keep that in mind. Alright, so now the phone has cooled a bit, but I have taken them away from the phone stand just to cool off. Remember when I said that this pad here is technically a, well, heat insulator? Well, you know what? We should do this. We just rotate it. We should do this, and then now it can hold two phones. Alright, okay, this is I think more fair for these two phones. because with the exposed back, it can dissipate heat to the surrounding air more efficiently. So you know what, instead of going to 3D Mark solar based stress test, we shall go and do AnTuTu round 2. Because, okay, so AnTuTu round 2. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Okay, alright, so the new scores are in. We're still seeing the same trend as before. Memory is about this. Okay, so nothing much has changed even though we have the back exposed to whatever air now. So, okay, now we're done with this. I will let the phone cool down once more and then we will head to 3D Mark Solar Bay. Now, for the second last benchmark that I want to do is 3D Mark. And we will do Solar Bay first. Solar Bay stress test. Now, this Solar Bay stress test here is with ray tracing. So the Solar Bay stress test will actually run the Solar Bay benchmark 20 times in a row back to back to stress out the phone to its maximum capacity, I think, just to see its sustained performance. And the Exynos 2400, as shown in War Thunder with ray tracing turned on, they will perform better than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So let's just begin and see how things go. And there we go, all three phones are done. And we can see a pretty stark contrast between this and also this. Yeah, these two are quite close, I would say. It's within 100 marks. And this one though is kind of a strange one. You can see the best loop score is 8590 for the S24 Plus, with the Exynos 2400 is 8855. So anyway, as what we have seen in the gaming test videos that you have watched, thank you for watching and also subscribing to our channel. The Exynos 2400 in these two phones, they have better ray tracing performance compared to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in the S24 Ultra. That also reflects in this test here. However, I do want to highlight the lowest loop score. So you can see for these two phones, the Plus has 4,968 points. For this S24, the small one, is 4,874, whereby the Ultra is 4,324. So you can see the thermal headroom is very small on the Ultra. It only ranges until 44 degrees Celsius before it starts thermal throttling. So that means this phone will quote-unquote overheat very fast and start thermal throttling. Even though it is only 44 degrees Celsius, I think Samsung could have pushed it higher, but I think they don't want to push it higher because a lot of people who don't use this phone for gaming or any sort of stress test will complain that the phone gets hot. So I understand why they want to do this, because this is not a gaming phone, but you can use it for gaming somewhat. Then for the S24 Plus, the thermal headroom is a lot wider, so we have all the way until 46 degrees Celsius. And finally, for the Galaxy S24, the small one, it also has a bigger thermal headroom all the way up to until 47 degrees Celsius. And as we can see, the performance of the small and the big one is pretty similar. This one is a tad bit lower than the Plus, but still commendable. Ignore this frame rate 125 FPS because it's only for one small peak. So I would ignore this little spike here, and these two graphs are actually very similar. Again, I will screenshot this first and then let the phone cool down for a while before doing the 3D Mark wildlife test. Okay, the phone has cooled down and now is for wildlife extreme stress test. Okay, and here we go. So the benchmark has completed, and the winner for this benchmark is obviously gonna be the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. As we can see here, the best and worst score for the loops of Wildlife Extreme benchmark is still gonna be the highest out of the 3 phones here. Just don't care about the stability here, because the stability score literally just takes the best and worst loop and then they calculate it from there. But as we can see here, in terms of just pure raw data, raw number, the best and worst score is still gonna be the highest on the 8 Gen 3. So if we look at the temperature and whatnot, the starting temperature is a slight bit different, but that doesn't really matter since we are only looking at the best and worst score, because anything below the thermal throttling limit will still run at the highest performance. So the first loop will always be the best, and then the last loop will always be the worst score ever. So as far as we can see, it pretty much confirms that the thermal limit of these 3 phones, 47 degrees, 46 degrees Celsius, and 44 degrees Celsius. I think the 8 Gen 3 can be pushed even further for more performance. It's just that Samsung doesn't want to do it. I can understand why, for reasons that we explained earlier. And I think that pretty much concludes our overall benchmark. BRB, I need to screenshot this. Okay. So now with the benchmarks done, I'm gonna show you the battery life test that we have done a day ago. So as what we have mentioned in our YouTube community post that you can see on the screen here, I did say that we were using the standardized battery life test that we were using for a few years now, so we can compare past data. But in this video here, I'm just gonna show you the data for all these 3. And I also asked you guys if you're gonna think the S24 Ultra's Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is gonna be more efficient than the S24 Plus with the Exynos 2400. And I'm just gonna show you the answer here. The answer is yes, but not too much. Remember, these 2 phones are using higher resolution, 3210 by 1440 pixels, I think. I can't really remember the amount, but it's the same exact resolution, whereby this one is 24 something something by 1080 pixels. So that's why with a lower resolution, it can achieve higher battery life number right here with its 4000 mAh battery, whereby this one is 13 hours and 22 minutes. I would still say it can last through one whole day, not much of a problem. This one is gonna last you more than a day, probably. Don't quote me on that, but it actually depends on how much you wanna use your phone anyway. But this one is actually surprising. That means it is more efficient than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, and yeah, by quite a substantial amount. So this one is surprising. It's just that the gaming performance coming out of this isn't exactly the highest number. Probably that is due to the thermal headroom issue, but for this one though, you're gonna get better gaming performance. It's just that the efficiency of it while you are doing whatever is not that good. But I can assure you, the battery life of this one, the Exynos 2400, is much better than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So yes, that is also gonna be included in our full review for all of these devices. We will have all of the numbers and whatnot. Stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Yeah, this is technically a bonus video. I'm doing the benchmarks anyway, so might as well show you guys. So yeah, do subscribe and also share this video, and also please like the video as well. That will help us out a lot because we don't have sponsors for our videos. So yeah, your support really means a lot. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video.